The moment I pushed through the heavy oak doors, the federal courtroom went quiet. My service dress jacket held my spine straight, ribbons aligned, metal catching the lights. I felt eyes skim my uniform and stall on my rank. Third row. There they were. My father, Graham Hale, leaned to my mother and breathed out his little wheezing laugh. Marilyn sighed, shaking her head, the same look she wore when I'd embarrassed her in public, like my uniform was a costume. I kept walking, marble under my heels, each step a clean click. Behind the prosecution table, I set my folder down and faced forward, letting the room stare. "All rise." Judge Harrow entered, adjusted his glasses, and read the docket. Case 9-24 CR 000081. The United States versus... His gaze found me. He stopped mid-sentence. The air turned hard. "Dear God," he whispered into the mic. "Captain Hale, Operation Nightshade." The two U.S. Marshals by the bench snapped to rigid attention. Somewhere behind me, my father's laugh died in his throat. 2 weeks earlier, they'd laughed for real. Sunday dinner had been Blake's stage again. My older brother, Blake Hale, flashing that startup grin. "It's a bureaucratic mix-up," he'd said, as if an indictment were a typo. Wire fraud, export violations. He made them sound like parking tickets. Dad beamed. "My boy's lawyers will crush it." Blake turned to me. "Hey, Legal Eagle, maybe you can run down to the courthouse, file something for my team, get them coffee." They laughed, warm, certain, cruel in its ease. I smiled back, polite as glass, while inside a cold professional fury clicked into place, neat as a chambered round. Now, in this courtroom, I felt that click again, and this time it had teeth. People think silence is empty. In my world, it's a weapon. My office wasn't a beige cubicle. It was a windowless skiff under Andrews where phones stayed locked outside and the only sound was filtered air. That's where Colonel Reddick watched me lay out what Blake had done. I clicked to the first slide. "Good morning, sir. Subject, Blake Hale." Hearing his name in that room tasted like metal. He routed controlled LAR components through a Dubai shell. We have the wire transfers, the SWIFT identifiers, and the server logs from the Nightshade warrant. A general's jaw tightened. Reddick's stare stayed level. "This isn't just fraud, Captain Nora, it's a breach." "The platform he touched protects pilots," I said. "One hole is enough." After the brief, I crossed the line I'd been trained never to blur. I walked into Reddick's office, stood at attention, and recused myself from prosecuting United States v. Hale. He gave one grim nod, right move, and I left hollow, benched again, like I'd always been at family dinners. Blake's civilian lawyers didn't share my ethics. A week later, their motion to dismiss landed on our desks. Poisoned tree, improper warrant, overzealous junior officer with a personal vendetta. Me, translated into courtroom insult. My desk phone rang. Reddick's voice was flat. "Your recusal is from prosecution, not from testifying to your work. Judge Harrow wants the originating investigator sworn on the affidavit." That night my mother called, bright and brittle. "We're all coming tomorrow to support Blake." "Of course," I said. "I'll see you there." I didn't draft arguments. I opened my own 200-page affidavit and highlighted every timestamp, every statute, every step they'd just dared me to defend in open court. On the stand, the oath felt light in my hand. The weight was behind me, my parents, Blake, the myth they'd fed. Counsel in the $10,000 suit rose. "Your Honor, this investigation was amateur hour. Captain Nora Hale acted out of personal animus." Judge Harrow didn't look at him. He looked at me. "Captain Hale authored Nightshade," he said. "We teach it." I opened my binder and spoke like I was back in the skiff. Dates, IP addresses, export control categories, the exact paragraph of the Arms Export Control Act Blake violated while joking about coffee. When defense tried to interrupt, Harrow cut him off. "Let her finish." By the Dubai shell's bank records, Blake's grin was gone. My father's wheeze never returned. My mother's hands hovered at her throat, finding only consequence. Cross-examination never came. The lawyer sat down, gray-faced. Harrow's gavel sounded like a lock. Motion denied. Bail denied. Mr. Hale is remanded. The marshals lifted Blake to his feet. Cuffs clicking shut, sharp, final, too loud. He looked at me once, wet-eyed, but I didn't move. Outside, Colonel Reddick waited and gave one nod. Done. My parents stayed in the gallery, staring as if I were a stranger. I walked into the winter sun, uniform steady, and the silence finally belonged to me. Weeks later, Blake took a plea, 15 years inked in black. An email from Dad arrived. Proud, sorry. I archived it, untouched and quiet.